we have details of our grandfather, and his name was Patrick Josph Magee. I think Des knew him.
Yes, I knew him well.
Oh, that's Paul Yorick.
Well, he was living with us in the later stages of his life, and I can still see him at the end of the kitchen table in 41 Venice Street. He had one of the old-fashioned walrus moustaches, and he used to pour his cup of tea into a saucer and lift it up and sip it. And he had these brown stains on the moustache. But he, as well as being, I wasn't aware of this, of course, I was only very small at the time, and he used to come along and according to the reports, I used to throw the odd tantrum and throw myself on the ground and on the floor, and he had one of these old-fashioned walking sticks with all the knobs on it, and he'd come up beside me and he'd go bang, bang, bang on the floor, and get up off that floor, Mara, and he'd say, and I'd get up straight away. But he, according to that document that Jack prepared, he was a licensed racer, but I have still a copy of the old Advocate. When he died, I gave him a write-up, and apparently he had some connection with the Advocate, which was a Catholic newspaper, and I understand he used to do quite a bit of a number of articles for it.
His name was Patrick Josph Magee. He was born in 1857 in Galway, Ireland, or Galway. He married in 1882 a lady called Penny Bergen, who came from, they were married at Rosecrade in Ireland. He's buried at Coburg Cemetery, and his occupation was a licensed grocer. Died on the 3rd of March 1934. I was 3 years old then, but I can't remember. And apparently he was the father of 8 children. One of being John Fenton Magee, who was our father. The others, Mary Magee. Mary, I've never heard. Annie Magee. I can't recall an Annie Magee. William Francis Magee.
Yes, that was Uncle Bill.
And he was the black sheep of the family, apparently.
Bill was the black sheep?
Yeah. Why was he the black sheep?
Oh.
He played around and he did all sorts of
No, he
things.
was a bit of he wasn't a very sociable type in the family, as I remember him at all.
And in those days, he walked out of church.
I think he married outside the church. I'm not sure of that, but I know that was the feeling. He wasn't.
Eileen Agnes Magee, who was our children, my children, and Des's children would know more as Auntie Eiley, who was a good shepherd nun.
Sister Mary St. Thomas of Aquinas,
who lived hundreds of years and died in 1986.
Where was she born?
It doesn't say. She was almost 100 when she died.
Or 98.
98 or 99 when she died. Then there was Uncle Thomas Patrick Magee.
He was a great singer. He led the choir at Preston.
Oh, really? Well, I can remember John Fenton being called upon to give the note to start the faith of our fathers at the communion breakfast down in Manly's Hall, too.
Well, Mum and Dad were both members of the choir at St. James's in North Richmond.
Well, and the other brother was Joseph Aloysius Magee.
Joe. He married.
Joe.
That's Monica's dad.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And there are several.
Well, when did Patrick come out?
Doesn't say. I don't know. Obviously, it was after he was married. He was married in
1857.
1882,
1882.
and he came out. And he died in 1934, and he had 8 children in that period. But all the children were born in Australia.
So Richard came out after his marriage, you could say.
Probably on honeymoon.
The mother's side, we know that the father was a contractor. What type of contracting it was, I don't know, but they had horses and so forth, horse vehicles, and they lived in Maryborough. But I don't know anything about the mother, although, as I said to you before, I have an idea that there's some connection with a family called Williams, because I'm pretty sure that Mum said her mother was English. And I know that when Mum and Dad went over for their overseas trip years ago, that they called in to see the Williams people that were left while we were in England. Where that was, I just can't recall.
We have some photographs of those people. They're the ones that we were looking at the other night, and I said, I don't know them, but they were the ones that used to correspond with Mum.
Yeah, no, they were family or they were just friends.
They were aunties.
They were family.
Right.
So, O.P. Hunt,
That was Mum's brother,
Uncle Ozzy, who
Oswald Phillip,
distinguished himself and won a
military medal.
No, it wasn't military medal. It was a DCM in the First World War in France. We do have a citation. This may be of interest to some of the children, I suppose. It's from the Department of Defence in 16th of June 1920. Dear Madam, I have much pleasure in forwarding here under copy of extract from the supplement under so-and-so to the London Gazette, dated the 11th of March, relating to the conspicuous service rendered by the undermentioned member whilst serving with the Australian Imperial Force. He was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal, and with reference to the announcement, the following is the act of gallantry for which this award was made. Number 2335, Private O.P. Hunt, DCM, for marked gallantry during the operations near Geneva on the 7th and 8th of October 1918, which would be very close to the end of the war.
What?
He was responsible for a company getting onto the jumping off tape, which was something they used to use in front of the trenches to enable the soldiers to form up and go out and get slaughtered, in time for the attack, and guided them onto the tape under heavy fire. During the attack, he, at the head of a party, rushed an enemy post, killing several and wounding the remainder. The above has been promulgated on the 10th of June 1920.
He was never called anything else but OP in Canberra. Tragically, he was more, he couldn't handle liquor. And on most occasions he was relatively affected by the time he got there. But that's understandable in the circumstances. Uncle Huey was also affected rather tragically. He was wounded. He was also in the war, fought in the war, and in the trenches. And he was wounded by one of the explosive bullets, which went into the left shoulder, in the front part, and exploded as it went out the back. And of course, this caused an a horrific wound. He was sent home with that. And
Was he also a guest?
no, not to my knowledge. But I know that he did have that wound, and for years after the war, they were still taking up pieces of bone and so forth. And he never really got over that. So he went out to some social function with RDGS and contracted a heavy cold, and which developed into pneumonia, and unfortunately he just passed away with that. His mother had OP, Huey, and Vince.
Who was the youngest
Vincent
brother?
was the other brother. He was a keen Collingwood supporter, and
We forgave him.
he was in the boot making trade in Collingwood for most of his life. I don't think he served in the First World War.
But not old enough, or
He wouldn't have been old enough, was
He was much younger than the others.
Yeah.
because I was thinking he was my dad, so he didn't go to the war.
Probably about the same time.
John Kenton Magee, born 17th of February 1886 at Richmond. He was married on the 22nd of April 1911, in April 1911 to Margaret Mary Hunt at Richmond. He's buried at the Melbourne Cemetery.
He said at St Ignatius.
It just says at Richmond. Could have been St Ignatius, could have been St James.
There were the others.
His occupation was, he was a clerk in public service, and he was militarised during the war.
He was a salesman before he became a clerk.
Pop was a salesman at Floyd Gibson's, but that was before my time.
Got a guy since now.
That's right.
Corner of
Northeast corner of Burke and Swanson Street.
Possibly as far as, I don't know about this, but as far as I'm concerned, from the time that I was born, I had very little memory of my father for many years. Because the war started in 39, which I was 8 years of age. And he was militarised, he was away a lot, he was over the States. And I didn't really see much of him until 46, 47. So I didn't know much about him. He's suffered and died on the 26th of September 1952. He had a history of heart trouble.
Not so much heart trouble as no, he was he had a lot of bronchial problems. For years and years he used to smoke a pipe heavily, and eventually he gave that away, and
We killed him.
it was a little bit too late, and he actually died of cardiac asthma. That was the official
So he's
reason.
buried at Melbourne Cemetery, and he and their mother had 8 children.
So how did your family go during the Depression? I mean, did your dad work all the way through? Or was there...
That I'm not sure, because he, I think at one stage he was in the city south of Floyd, and probably I would say that he was unemployed for a while during the Depression, because I know that Uncle Ern, who was one of the Clean people, the Clean families were.
They married Mum's sister.
He was married to Mum's sister, Days, Kathleen, and he was at his suggestion a clerk. In other words, he had a steady job and a steady income. And that, as we understand later on, he was in the Defence Department, and when the war came, they all had to be put in uniform.
He became a soldier.
He was never a soldier.
He was. The other thing, one humorous incident from way back, which concerns our father, he was a member of the Richmond
Union Bowl.
the Richmond City Band, which you may not know. He used to play the E flat bass, and in those days, Pop liked to drink. The band had been playing on a very hot day, and they wandered off, put their instruments down, and he put his down on the ground with the bell down and the mouthpiece up. And they went off, had a drink, came back, Pop picked it up, put it to his lips, and nearly died, because in between time, a little dog had gone past and visited the E flat bass.
Oh, yeah.
Your dad died on the 26th of September, 52.
Was that when he died? Had he been ill? Were you expecting it? You're saying earlier.
Like I say, he had these bronchial things. He was towards the latter stage of his life. Before he actually retired, I think he was cutting out his sick leave, as a matter of fact. He was a public servant. He often he'd come home and from his bowls, and I think I'd have a hot lemon drink and an aspirin. And then he'd go to bed, and I would bet my bottom dollar that the following day would you say to Mum, will you give them a ring and tell them I won't be in but he really wasn't 100%.
Well, he had to give up bowls.
He had to give up bowls, and that was to give you an idea how ill he was. He just wasn't himself.
Well, we know about that, don't we?
We know about that.
But he had been sick for, well, funnily enough, it was the time that I first sang on Eddie Barner's show. Remember the one, the P&A parade? And he had been sick for about really, it would have been a full week in bed, which was, well, that's unusual. He used to spend a couple of days in bed, but he'd been and you could see he wasn't a good colour. And they got the doctor and ordered him up to St Vincent's, and unfortunately he passed away in the waiting room at the casualty section.
He had had heart problems before, because I remember when we were at Station Street, and I can picture now, there was a seat just around the corner from Station Street from High Street, and he'd get off the tram, coming back from the bowler club where we used to play solo. He was mad playing solo. We weren't allowed to say a word in the house when the solo skills were on. And many the time I was seen him get to the seat and had to sit down to get his breath and breathe. And I remember once going out, he was in Heidelberg repatriation hospital for quite a long time.
Yeah.
After a heart problem, I remember going out and playing snooker with him, and wondering how the hell he ever learned to play snooker. We were quite good.
Who won?
I'm not saying.
Well, you wouldn't have been much of a judge anyway. Also, I remember days of when that was during the Depression, and things were pretty bad.
This is before the war.
Yeah, well before the war. This is
No, 33.
34. And there were returned soldiers used to come along, and there was one used to come along this back lane behind our place, a horse-drawn flat tray with drop-down sides on it, and he used to have rabbits, and he had a bell, a very heavy bell, not a little one like the ice cream tub. It was a big heavy bell, and he dangled that one, and that's where you buy your go. And you have all these rabbits under that
Sixpence a pair.
and sixpence a pair or whatever it was, and in those days, and particularly in Richmond, which was a very clannish suburb, everybody supported everybody else, and it was one of the mothers they used to always come around the lane because the union mothers would never be out the front, they'd always be around in the laundry or in the wash house or wherever, hanging clothes out in the backyards. And that's often the case, as I understand it. The one mother would know that Mrs. Jones down the road was not going too well and didn't have much money or whatever, and she'd buy a pair of rabbits for her and say, give them to her on the way past, And that's where that saying came out, thank you, mother, for the rabbits. And the other vendors, again, return servicemen, were the ones who used to go down to the piers at Frankston and Mordialloc and those areas and Brighton, whatever, and pull up all the mussels off the piers. And they used to sell those. They also used to come around in exactly the same sort of conveyance. Drop down the side of the car. And of course, these were all under wet bags and loads of mussels. And,
All of them up in a kerosene tin.
and that's right, he used to have a kerosene tin and a stick, and it was da 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 da, and you knew that was the mussel man coming up to buy your mussels from him.
No, I don't think it was easy for anyone during the Depression.
No, it was never easy. I can remember, one thing I can remember from the Depression days was Ginty. And he had a very good mate.
And full of whacker.
Whacker.
That was his nickname.
Whacker came round one day and Ginty had somehow managed to get hold of a packet of
His mother gave him the sixpence to buy.
tailor-made cigarettes. And Ginty had a broken leg.
That's right.
Sitting in front of the fireplace. And Whacker walked in and he just taken a cigarette out, closed the packet and threw it into the fireplace. The fire was going, but he made sure he threw it to the side so it couldn't get burnt.
That was his last.
Oh, right.
But they did share it.
The last cigarette.
The supposed last cigarette. So there's a full packet sitting next to the fire.
Well, I can possibly remember some of the earliest things that I can remember. Go back to Bennett Street when I was 2.
That's
One of
what
my
it is.
brothers and a friend of his built I don't know how they built it because nobody had any money. They built a midget racing.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah.
A red midget racing.
Arthur Wales.
And to get it to go, they took down part of the back fence. There was a laneway behind the back fence. Yeah. And got it running up and down the lane. And whatever happened to it, whether it ever raced or ever went again, I don't know.
Ginty was the one that was the prime mover behind that. I don't think they ever raced it. But I think that they were keen on getting it to the racing stage because there used to be where the current, when I say current, I think it was one of the first housing commission estates in Melbourne was built just near the Hawthorne Bridge.
Opposite the pub. Opposite the pub.
No, it's on the same side as the pub.
Yeah, but on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those little houses.
Yeah, all those, they're all the same. That was the first one in Melbourne.
That was the Richmond race course.
And John Wren used to have, they used to have
horse
pony races, not horse races, pony races.
Yeah.
And he ran the tote. He was under the tote.
But that was, they also had midget car races there also.
Oh yeah.
And and that's where they
We're
got
heading.
the idea of getting this midget car going. But they also had motorbike races too, because Ginty had a motorbike too. And I remember it was called an aerial, A-R-I-E-L-L.
Famous name.
Yeah, and in those days they had the carbide box, with dry ice in. Unbelievable. Ginty also I've got memories there of course we used to play, as brothers we used to play cricket in the backyard, and we used to put this in a square box, about a decent sized square box, so we wouldn't get hurt. And because it was a real ball, almost a real cricket ball. And I also remember Ginty having a pea rifle, and because of the aforesaid game of cricket that we used to play, there were two windows missing out of the laundry, out of the wash house rather, not the laundry, the wash house, and two panes missing out of the wash house window, and Ginty used to rest the pea rifle on the cross strut and pick off sparrows that used to nest in the paddock, come along and lob on the wireless aerial, because in those days you had to have an aerial outside the house to get any reception. There were three main houses the Magees were concerned with in Richmond, which we've been, that was when
Well, there was Griffith Street.
it was Griffith Street and Punt Road first, I understand, then Griffith Street, then 41 Bennett Street.
Do you know what number Griffith?